Okay, I will be covering how to configure songs in Silmaril. And if you haven't, I recommend you watch the previous video on what I would call song basics. It's a little long, and if you're very well versed in the game mechanics and you have a solid gear swap, you can kind of skip it. But for those that are interested and want some light viewing, it's just me talking about how there's certain limitations in the game and even some in the Silmaril. So songs is pretty complicated. That's the only time I had to make a separate video just talking about how songs work. And because of that, I actually got a whole section uh, dedicated to songs. Now, you'll need songs and also the job abilities. Okay. So, you have to configure your bard, and this is where you determine whether or not you use nitro, and you have the option of using your 1 hours, and these 1 hours do change what you have here available for songs and options. Okay, so we all know what dummy songs are. Very good. In this particular case, I can't go to 5. It's not letting me do that. The reason I can't go to 5 is because my job abilities, I don't have my clearing call. Once I have clearing call, I can put the 5th one on. Okay. And if I take it off, it should just back down. Okay. So, when to sing 5, when to sing 3, if you're doing clearing call, or just in general. You have a couple options, and it changes the behavior of how Silmaril does its dummy songs. So, if you have the same amount of dummy songs configured as the same amount of bass songs, it's going to sing all the dummy songs first, and then it's going to nitro, and then it's going to sing the 4 bass songs, okay? But a lot of times, things like you're just like, okay, I don't need the maximum amount of time under the nitro effect because I'm not pianissimos a bazillion dang songs. I'm just running an ambuscade. Then you'll probably only want to do 2 songs and then leave this as your 4. What it's going to do, it's going to sing these first 2 here, song 1, song 2. Then it's going to sing dummy 1, dummy 2. Then it's going to pop, I'm sorry. Then it's going to sing 3 and 4. The difference is when it nitros. So when you set your dummy songs to 2 and your bass song is 4, it knows enough that says, oh, okay, I'm just going to nitro. And at nitros, it's going to slap these 2 songs on, put the 2 dummies, and then the next 2, and it's done. Right? So you get the high speed singing with the effect of nitro. Okay? If you set them 4 to 4, like this, it's not going to nitro first. I suppose I could show this quick. I'll just put 4 dummy songs up, and then I'll put something. Okay. So in this case, it should sing the dummies first before it does its nitro. So right now, it's doing Payon, mine, Obade. Oh, jeez. And Pastoral. Okay. Assuming I have my job abilities quick for nitro. There it is. I didn't set a Mercado. Otherwise, it would have marked out of that on a march. That was my bad. Well, whatever. I'm just showing the order and what dummy songs setting affects the behavior. So anyway, that was a little bit of a long process, right? Because you just sang 8. So let me stop this. And I'm just going to change my job real quick to blank it out. Okay, now I'm going to take this to 2. Okay, you can see it graded out. So now when I press the start button, just let my gears finish loading here. So now we're going to hit the start button. Notice right away it's popping Nitro, and it's going to sing these 2 bass songs like I described. There it is. And then it should jump over and sing these 2 dummy songs because I don't have a prime. I cover all that stuff in the previous video. And then there's Mage's Ballad and Etude, Herculean Etude. So that's both of them work. There's pros and cons to how you want to do this. A goal fight, and I got a lot of stuff going on with pianissimos. I'm going to probably want to sing the 5 dummy songs first. That when I pop Nitro, I got maximum duration. And I can sing a lot more songs. So you can sing, 10, 12 songs, for your tanks, you got dirge, or, you might have a carol here and there. There's a lot of stuff on some of those fights that are not just easy master level crap, right? Okay, so I think that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to stop this. And then I'll just put those on. Let me change jobs so I can show you another example. Okay. So now that I've included Clarion Call, I'm now allowed to set the 5th, and you can kind of see where this shows up. And I don't know, I'll just put on Dirge. There are some comments. I try to describe some of this as best I can in some of the text, but it's important to really think about what you have Clarion Call song at, because this buff, this song, if it drops, because you got, dispelled, you died, it cannot put this buff up again until 45 minutes or whatever until you get Clarion Call back. So always think about this particular song. Usually it's your lowest priority or the one that you can afford to lose. Put that one on number 5. These it will maintain, right, because it doesn't need a 1 hour for that. And then the other piece to really understand is total. This is the total song count. This is what it's looking to try to maintain, right? So if you don't have a 2 additional song, you're going to do a 3 song. Okay, this is your Bard's bass song count. If you don't have any additional song harps, you're just going to be at your 2 song, right? I mean, unless you're in the dunes and you don't even have an instrument, then you have 1, right? And then I get 1 more with the Clarion Call here. That's kind of how that works. Of course, again, like I mentioned before in the other video, primes, set these to 0. You don't even need to do dummy songs. Okay, so those are the 2 tabs. I'm trying to think, that's most of what you need here. This is relatively straightforward. Madrigal, and then you have a choice of replacing like with an any, and it can be any player except for the bard. And I'll show you what happens when you do the bard. It goes away. because I'm not letting you do that. So that's when I go and do an any, it's going to replace any song. It doesn't care. But if I specifically select a different one, it's going to try to sing a madrigal, and it's going to keep the same loadout as what you have here, except for it's going to try to overwrite, for instance, Herculean Etude, right? And then you come down here and you just select wherever the etude is right here, right? That's what the one you've identified. Now this can get you into trouble where, again, order and durations and stuff, but it's actually going to look at the buffs, and it might do it twice because of how timing and gear swap all works, but it's actually going to keep singing until it has the correct songs. And any, it doesn't care. It's like most humans would do, and just be like, okay, you want to pianissimo your white mage? Here you go. And that's it. It doesn't care what it overwrote. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't care that you overwrote your march on your white mage. But if you don't want to do that, and you're like, no, I just don't want to have the etude, you select etude there, and it's going to re-sing once or twice to make sure you have those. So, try not to set more than one or two pianissimos to an actual player. It gets a little bit more confusing. And don't try, I mean, it will work, but generally double buffs, like for instance, if you want double ballads, that's pretty tough to pianissimo. You're better off singing a bass song, a ballad, and then pianissimo, a minuet on your DPS, especially if you have two or more. So this can get you in trouble a little bit here. The easiest though is just the any, right? Especially if you don't care. And I always recommend practicing, right? Find yourself a Nomad Moogle, hit play, let it sing its songs, make sure it does its all, buffing right. And if it doesn't, just change jobs. Okay, so last piece I'm going to cover here is the option tab. This can also make or break you. So rebuff, this one's a little confusing to some people, I suppose. But what happens is it's the same thing as like the same concept as enhancing magic. I call it maintain buff or something. I can't remember what it was, but what's going to happen is when your song timers, the little timers up here, they tick down, it's going to start singing, okay, to maintain that buff. I recommend nothing below 50 to 55 seconds. Okay. Most of the time, if I dual wield, I'll do it like at maybe like a 65 or something. But below 50, you run the risk, especially with how many songs or how active your bard is. That's the big thing. Like if you're running Odyssey and it's running around doing, weapon scaling and doing all that stuff. Because remember, it can't sing when you're moving, when it's running. So if you're running around and, clearing the floor and you haven't stopped in a little while, it's basically not able to sing. And so it might have tried to start at singing at 65 seconds, but it might not get to sing until 40 seconds because when you actually stop. Now, priorities, that makes the difference too, right? So if you put songs above following and combat, it's going to prioritize the songs. And so that's another key point is I personally always put songs at the top because if you drop a song, it's not fun, especially if you 1-houred and you can't get that fifth song back. That's a huge loss, right? So I bubble up songs to the top priority. And in this particular case, you select what song you want to Mercado, and like it mentions, it's only going to do it under the nitro effect, just because of how Honor March is the same cooldown. So, um, nitro options. Okay, I suppose this is helpful for some. It's not one that I particularly necessarily use a lot. This one is a little confusing. I've made it so that hopefully it's a little bit more obvious, but like these are other people, other players, right? So you can't have 6 players, right? Because it's your bard is always going to be within range because it's the one singing. So if you don't 6 box, you are not going to select 5 because this is not a party size. If you are single or you don't care about a range check, set it to 0. If you try box, you're going to set that to 2 if you want all your party members in there. That's kind of how that works. And then the range check is these players have to be within 21 yams. Now, harps have longer range than horns, and based off skill level, and blah blah blah. But generally speaking, 15 yams, you're plenty fine. Okay. I personally don't do too many of these checks because I keep my party relatively close. Refresh songs. This is another one that gets people into trouble a lot of times. As the tooltip mentions, if you have a song for whatever reason, gets to be 7 minutes, and all of a sudden you got your job ability because you random deal or wild card or whatever. If you pop nitro, it knows that, oh hey, you have a 7-minute song on, and if that 7-minute song is, if this slider is set above that 7 minutes, like for instance this one is 9, I'd set, it's going to sing that 7-minute song again to put a 9-minute song on. Okay, it forces a refresh of those songs. So most of the time, if you have a decked out bar that can maintain nitro, you're going to just slide it to 9 for the most part. So that's usually like a 12-minute honor march or 11-minute honor march. That's what you're looking at, right? If you're going to maintain the 9. And I make the comment here because otherwise it's going to keep singing the song. Like if you don't have a 10+ minute ballad and you set this to 9 and you have it as a 9:10, 9 minutes 10 seconds ballad, it's going to sing that ballad again under the effect of nitro, and because it'll eventually tick down to 8 something, and it's going to be lower than 9, so it's going to re-sing that song. But the problem will be your nitro just dropped off mid-song cast or something, and then now you got stuck with a 5-minute ballad, and everything else is 9 or 10 minutes. That's what this refresh song is. It's for the nitro. It's under the nitro section. Okay. Hopefully I made that clearer. And then this is just notification, right? So I put this in here just so that people can notify other real players or even yourself when to slow your roll and not run around sometimes. That's usually kind of what I end up using it for Odyssey. It's just like, oh, okay, after this mob pack, mob pack, I might have to like let my bard stop running around and actually sing a song. So there's just some options there. By the way, if you didn't know, Echo doesn't go anywhere besides your console. It's kind of like just writes to you locally. So if you do Echo Party, what that means is every character you have, so it's not going to echo to your friend that you're playing with. if you want to communicate with real people, you'll use either player or party. And that just adds it to the party chat in this case, or sends a tell to the player. Yeah, obviously, if you select your player name, you got to put a name there. And this is it's just freeform text. You can type whatever. And then this is how many seconds before your actual nitro that it's going to send this message to notify you it's getting ready. Okay, one thing I didn't talk about real quick here is this feature is disable dummy pianissimos. This is for when you have a mob that frequently dispels, for instance, like Gigalorium or Kalunga. A lot of the goal fights will just be annoying for that. And this will stop your bard from just spamming songs on them constantly, because by the time you get 4 songs up, you're going to get another full dispel. But you kind of really want that honor march, and you kind of want that ballad on your paladin to keep your gear and keep your cooldowns reasonable. So what this does is it's only going to allow you to sing 2, well, in this particular case, as a non-prime, I have 2 dummy songs, so it won't sing these. It'll only sing. I have Clarion Call on now. I need 3 bass songs or dummy songs. So I got these 5 songs. If I check this thing, it's only going to sing the first 2, Honor March and Knight's Mine, unless I pianissimos that particular player. Then it will just sing Honor March, and it, for instance, if Turin got dispelled, it was sing Honor March and then Blade Madrigal. Okay, and that's it. It's done. It's not going to put 4 songs on. It's not going to sing 2 dummy songs and then 2 main songs. It's just getting the 2 bass songs up. That's what, if you disable dummy songs, remember, like I talked about, you basically get 2 songs because you're singing. I'm assuming you're going to sing an instrument. Okay, so that's what that feature does. I think that covers most of it. Like I said, make sure you take a look at your priorities, and I always like the songs. You don't have to worry about job abilities above or low or whatever. I always just bubble songs to the top. It's going to use the right job abilities wherever you put job abilities for songs. But like I said, the biggest thing most people have is gear swap, and then understanding how songs work. Silmaril can't swap your harp, so I think that about covers it. I guess I'll do a quick demo here, I suppose. Let me pull up something. Ooh, let's just do. All right. So what do I have? No, not food. So job abilities, I got the whole 9 yards. Songs, what are we gonna do? Here's my 3 unique dummy. This one I also disabled because that was a Kalunga where he got annoying. Okay. Okay. So I didn't pianissimo False Servente because I knew the dirge was going to dispel. But that would be another one you would typically put here if you wanted to. So yeah, I'll just show you kind of how it goes. So because I didn't put 5 in here, I'm going to expect it to do a nitro. It won't mark auto because I have soul voice, and then it'll just run down here. So I'll try to follow the screens as it's doing it. Oh, wrong player. Okay. There's your soul voice. No, I have no idea why I did it. Oh. Oh, I loaded a different person's profile, so yeah. Let's give that until Morrowind instead. Okay. So what are we up to? I think I did it all. Even me kind of messing that up, and so is Pianissimo's. That should just do more in. Okay, so let's go ahead and verify. Go over here. So I'm supposed to have attack speed on our march there. Attacks. There we go. Looks like I got double attacks, and I do. Defense, mine, immunity, dirge. Got 5, and then I wanted a Pianissimos, and those 2. So now I'm just going to go and verify all of those. And there's my MP. So you can kind of see that was just a quick demo of how to toss the buffs on. Again, typically you're not allowed to, like I showed you before, put a Pianissimo on the player, but I actually loaded a different player profile on that one. That's why it started off with a ballad, and I wasn't expecting that, so I knew something was off. But obviously it corrected itself. It's, like I said, it's pretty dynamic. So for instance, if I just real time be like, I want to throw on a Madrigal, it's like, oh, you wanted a Madrigal? Here's your Madrigal for you. Of course, it's non nitroed. But you see what happened was I dropped Ballad from Yavanna because Madrigal overwrote the Ballad, but it's monitoring the buffs, so it knows it needs the Pianissimo, the Mage Ballad to those 2. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Now you can see where you can quickly, change a lot of stuff, and now I probably anticipate your Mage Ballad having to be, there it goes again, because that Carol overwrote that low duration Ballad. But it's, it looks for the cooldowns and it watches the buffs, so it's, like I said, it's pretty good. I've used it for a little bit, and I was a big Bard guy, so yeah. If you got any issues, got any questions, feel free to post it up on the Discord. Thanks.